everyone, thank you so much for joining me. This is Jackie Williams, and in this video I want to share with you some projects with the brand new Terrific Toadstools bundle. And as you can see, it's a stamp and a punch set this time. And I'm also going to be using the Toadstool Garden papers, which coordinate with this bundle. The papers are only available for January and February of 2025, as well as the gems. Both of these items, the Toadstool Garden papers and the purple adhesive back sequins, are free with purchase during January and February 2025. Depending on which country you live in depends on how much you need to spend in order to get these items for free. Okay, let's move on to our project. Our project today was inspired by a card I saw by Brenda Nielson, and she used completely different colors and products, but I'm just using her fun fold. So I have a standard size card base here. So it would be 8 1/4 or 8 1/2, depending on which country you're in, by 5 1/2. And we're going to score it at 2 inches and 6 inches. And I'm going to run some adhesive along the bottom here and then fold my card in half like this. I'm just creating a very simple pocket and then run my adhesive along here and fold that over like this. So you can see it's just a very simple pocket fold here. Now I'm just going to add one more detail. Along the edge that is closed, so the bottom edge of this, I'm just going to use my Simply Scored scoring board to just add some little scoring lines down there at the bottom. And the color I'm using is gray granite. Now I'm going to add my words before we get too far in. So I've used the Emboss Buddy, and then I'll use Versamark and the words "You are magical" just right down here in the lower right hand corner. We'll cover that with white embossing powder and then heat to melt. Okay, then the next thing we'd like to do is use the Versamark again, and this time I'm using the leaf stamp from the Terrific Toadstools. I'm just going to stamp that in a few places. I've always liked the tone on tone. Next I'll use the 2 3/8 inch circle punch, turn that upside down, and then just inserting in the top of my little simple bag, and it will just fit. And it won't actually go down all that far, maybe about 1/4 of the circle, and just punch that out to create that little notch. Now I have some small pieces of the Toadstool Garden papers. I've actually used most of what I have, so I don't have a lot of this left. It comes in a 6 by 6, so that's not quite enough to wrap all the way around this little envelope, this little pouch we've made. So I have scored it. So 1 inch on either end, so it fits around, just around this, and then just created another 3-inch piece to fill in the gap on the back. So I'll just use a bit of adhesive here. And then I'll just put some adhesive there, and I'll use some of the Fresh Freesia seam binding. Now this Fresh Freesia seam binding is also a free gift option with purchase during January and February 2025. And it is nice that the papers and the ribbon and the gems all coordinate nicely together. Now another fun new product that goes really well with the Toadstools are these fun dies. These are the Around It All dies, and they are just a series of kind of wonky circles, and they're just a bit fun for kids projects or anything whimsical, anything on the more cutesy side. I'm just taking some Fresh Freesia ink and blending that onto the white circle, and I've cut the slightly larger one out of Petunia Pop, and I'm just gonna crinkle that up a bit just to give it some texture. You could leave it flat, of course, or run it through an embossing folder if you prefer, and I'll do the same to the white. Then go ahead and place this. This is why I stamped the words first, is so that I could place that around the words. Now let's stamp our toadstools. So I want to stamp the larger toadstool in Night of Navy and the smaller toadstool in Pool Party. Now the punch punches out both of these images, and this one is just a little bit different in that it does not leave a white border. I personally like the white border, but happy to try something different. And I found with this punch, because it has so many curved edges, that short and sharp is the best way to get the best results. So just quickly punch it down. And then I'm using Pebbled Path for the stems, which there are stamped images for the stems, or you can punch them right out with the punch. Okay, then let's add these to our project. Now I found in designing with these over the last few weeks that I found it easiest to place the toadstools where I want them and then add the stems in after the fact. But you, of course, experiment what you think works best. I'm putting these stems up on dimensionals, and you'll want to use a portion of a dimensional or your mini dimensionals for these. And then for this one, I want the stem going the other way. I'm just going to shorten it a little bit. Now, it might be worth noting that I'm placing the stems on top of the toadstools rather than behind them like a flower. The stems actually go up into the middle of the, I don't know what that's called, the middle of the top. Then I've stamped a couple of the leaves in gray granite, and I've just cut those out, scissors, and we'll just place those down here at the bottom. And let's add our gems. Now I want to share with you a fun little way to do the ribbon. If you're someone who struggles with ribbon, then I think this is one method that you might like. So what I'm going to do is just tie this fresh freesia seam binding ribbon into a bow. It doesn't have to be particularly extra neat, okay? And then I'm going to tie a little bit of the gold twisted thread into a bow. I love this gold twisted thread. Okay, and then trim that off. And then I will fold this bow in half like this, kind of just squish it together. And we'll get a glue dot. And I'm going to just tuck that underneath here. And let's just trim that ribbon. And then I'll do the same with the gold twisted thread. Just folding it in half and then get a glue dot. And just tuck that in. So it's not really even looking like a bow anymore. And then just sort of adjust it till it looks okay to you. Something like this. And then we just have a card to go inside of our little pocket. Now when you're stamping your toadstools, be sure and stamp them so that the stems go part way into the image, so the stems are coming out of the middle again. And there's our card that can fit inside of our little pocket. And how cute is that? And here's one that I made earlier. It's basically just the same, but I have some other samples to share with you. So I have this little flip-flap card. This was inspired by Karen Titus. Just a cute little fun fold, and uses the papers. And I've also used the pearlized enamel effects there on the toadstool, just for something a bit fun. So these ones are really cute and happy. And for this one, I went with a different color theme and used the bokeh papers that go with the new butterfly set, and then just made a really fun faux watercolor background, and then did the toadstools in black with clear embossing powder for quite a different effect. And then I also just made a quick 8x8 scrapbook page. And for this one, I changed the colors a little bit, different from the papers. I did use little scraps of the the leafy print that is in the Toadstool Garden Pack, and then paired it with Highland Heather, Melon Mambo, and Berry Burst this time to coordinate with my photo. And then I also added some of the little daisies from the Flowers of Beauty die set to just make it that little bit more feminine to go with my photo. So there are all my projects for this evening using the Terrific Toadstools. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. I do have our Terrific Toadstools tutorial available, which includes this project plus one other. It includes step-by-step photos and cutting measurements so you can make those projects at home. Please check the video description for the links. Please leave me a comment, share this video with your friends, and of course subscribe. This is Jacque Williams. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next video. Bye-bye.